We live, baby.
We are live, and the music is failing us, but we do not fail ourselves.
It's
Um,
all good. It's all good, man. And people know it's up.
the music just
Uh-oh.
live. So
It's all good, man. Let's get to it, man. Let's get to it. It's all business here, my guy. I know people love the intro, but it's all business. Unfortunately, it ain't working today, but we finna get some cash, right? Finna get some cash. Let's get straight into it, man. First game up, Shark. We got the Oh, okay. Now it's going just pause it for me, my guy, if you don't mind.
apologize. The app was malfunctioning. Technical difficulties will not hold us back. For anybody who's watching this on YouTube, just fast forward through that. We will get into the board right now. Jay, what's going on, bro?
Let's get to it, man. Let's go to the streets of Orlando. We have these guys are 14-point underdogs at the house. You got Mobley. I love this coach. They're really connecting with the coach. I'm not necessarily looking towards taking the Magic tonight, but I just want to make a point. The next few years, I do think there will be some money made with the Magic. Nothing for me on this game. Obviously, motivation is sketchy for the Bucks. Will they play everyone? Right now, no one substantial is on the injury report. In theory, Bucks should trifecta spot, smack CDM, but the motivation may not be there in this one. Shark, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back, obviously, about a month ago, they did play back-to-back games in Milwaukee. The Magic did get there against the spread in the first of the two, and then Milwaukee proceeded to blow them out from the gate in the second one. Just a little bit of psychology here. I have a bit of a suspecting idea. This might reverse from that. The Bucks might come in there and get them in the first game on the road and then not cover the second game, polar opposite to what they did at home. Just general psychology. Obviously, the Magic do get the 2-off revenge game here, but I do think the line is heavily on Milwaukee. It was 11.5, 12 at home, and it started at 12.5 here. It's all in Milwaukee. And just that psychology, I think it might reverse itself, but I'm definitely not playing this game.
Yeah, no, that's a good point there. I know my guy knows a guy. He likes the Bucks in the first half here. See him getting out to start to an early start here. I couldn't talk him off. Like I say, in theory, this should be a smack city. So I'm not going to throw out the word easy, but like the Magic are absolutely decimated right now. They don't even have Cole Anthony as well. So I believe the only player that they've gotten back from health and safety protocols is RJ Hampton, and he doesn't really move the needle for me. So without Cole Anthony, without their bigs, I know they got Wendell Carter Jr. back. They still without Okiki, Terrence Ross, Suggs, Mulder, Etuan Moore, BJ Johnson, even the guys that were signing 10-day contracts are out for these guys. Cole Anthony and Mo Bamba in that one. So it's a laundry list of guys. In theory, the Bucks should be able to have their way in that game. Not something strong. Like I say, Bucks, only way I'd look in that one, maybe a Magic team total under. Let's go to the streets of Miami here. Not too far from Orlando here, Shark. We got the Wizards versus the Heat here. Heat lands 6.5. We know that Adebayo's out, Deadman's out, a ton of guys. They got Butler back though, Shark. What we doing in this one, my guy? We got you liking the Heat today?
Yes, one of two buy hats engaged. Suddenly not so casual. December 28th, 2021, Tuesday afternoon on the East Coast. We apologize for those technical difficulties, but we are back and ready to dominate. Top look of the day here, Miami minus 6.5. What we're looking at here is purely the in-division functionality at home for Miami. They're 2-1 ATS in the campaign. They're coming off a non-cover by 1 point against the Magic last game. They are 0-2 ATS the last two games coming into tonight's matchup. But you go back early season, another back-to-back environment in the same stadium against, or not the same stadium, excuse me, home road against Washington. The line functionality did matter. I think it's very important, particularly in the division. Minus 6.5 home, Miami 112-97, comfortable blowout victory. Went on the road 6.5 to 2.5. It should have stayed at 3.5. That 1 point did matter, and they did lose outright 103-100. I think that we've talked about this on this channel, obviously, for a month plus now. That was really where Washington just had this heater, this cluster where they shouldn't have been winning as many games as they were. They just were getting lucky in small windows, couple back doors, this, and that. And now you bring to the center point, there's still one game over 500 on the campaign at 17-16 with a minus 2.8 point per game differential. And it's just an outrageous outlier. It's a revenge game. It's a great number. And again, the only two games at home Miami this year within the division, a blowout against the Magic 107-90 early season, and Washington 112-97. I think it repeats itself. They win the game by double digits.
Yeah, I couldn't talk you off here, my guy. Ton of guys out. They possibly can get Bradley Beal back today for the Wizards, but now they still got KCP out. Now Aaron Holiday, Neto is out off the bench, and then now Harold this morning entered health and safety protocols, guys. So it's a ton of guys going down for him. Obviously, the Heat still without Adebayo, Dedmon, and Lowry as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in this one. Nothing strong for me, but I hope you cash on the Heat, my guy. Let's go to the streets of Toronto here. We got the 76ers versus the Raptors here, guys. The 76ers are laying 6.5 points on the road. I had Philly written down as a lean, my guys. I lean to the Sixers in this one. Obviously, they lost one of the toughest, probably ever shots you could lose on the Game 7 in Toronto a few years back to Kawhi Leonard. I do think they'll remember that arena forever. They will always want to go and ball out there. We know the Raptors coming off of absolute thrusting. They got smashed versus the Cavs, but they didn't have any of their players. I think a bunch of those same guys are still out today. Obviously, with the Sixers, you always worry about motivation. Not necessarily a bet on team for me in the long run, but I do think they come to play today. I lean Sixers minus 6.5 in this one, Shark.
Yeah, I would lean Philly here if I had to. I'm not taking it for the aforementioned reason. Toronto did just get hammered by 45 points to the perpetually on one Cleveland Cavaliers, which is a different conversation. But I think that's more so on the Cavs just being relentlessly superior ATS and competitively in this basketball season so far. So you get the bounce back game. And that, of course, was the first game off a long COVID break for Toronto. So it's almost kind of like they restarted the season. They came out super flat. Now they get the bounce back game. I don't like fading them in the bounce back game, particularly at home, where we've talked about this for, again, months, but they were awful at home for a long period of time. They have caught wind. They are 3-0 ATS last three at home. You get a revenge game here for Philly. Philly did lose at home 115 to 109. But unfortunately, the line is just not showing enough strength. Philly laid 4.5 at home. This came in at 6.5. It should be 7.5. Of course, we always talk about it. It is adjusted for rosters, but it tells the numerical story. I think it's going to be a tight line. I think this could be a little bit closer than people think tonight.
Yeah, Shark. Unfortunately, my guy, I hate to call you out, but if they lay 4 at the house, they're supposed to be laying 1 to 2 on the road. So it's actually strength for the Sixers here. I didn't even look at that, to be honest with you. This is one where you are right that it is a bounce back spot for the Raptors. It's tough to bet against a team when they just came off getting smacked by damn near 50 points. But for simply put, they already lost to. So Philly already lost to the Raptors earlier this season. Like you say, they did lay 4. The line's coming up for them. The Raptors still have a ton of guys out. Like, this isn't the Raptors team. This is the problem with right now in the NBA. A lot of these teams aren't even necessarily themselves with all of these backup guys coming in. So you still got Precious Achiuwa out, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Justin Champagnie, Dragic, he's been out for a while, Malachi Flynn, Van Fleet. Their whole starting 5 is out. Possibly they get Siakam back today, possibly Gary Trent, but they're just absolutely decimated right now. You do worry about the Sixers, their motivation here, but with them already losing early in the season and the last few times they were in Toronto, they got smacked up as well. I think Philly comes to play here. So it's just a lean. I don't bet my games this early. We'll talk about another one here I like really strong, but what you going to say?
Yeah, just one final point. I obviously misspoke on that. What I was actually going back on last year when the lines moved in and out of the windows, which I always talk about, some of the stronger ones Philly did not cover, and the shorter ones they did cover. And so I don't know if the line functionality is going to tell you the story. Yes, that is very strong movement. But again, going through the matchups here, which do matter season to season based on Las Vegas averages, it just didn't matter last year. So I think this could be tight. It could be just a merge point.
No, I'm with you on that. Like I say, we both lean Philly, but I was just looking at it. I'm like, hold on, they were at the house and then now they're on the road. It just, I like the line. Look, I love looking at the line, but in theory, it is coming up to the Sixers here. Actually, a lot, to be honest with you. So heavy lean to the Sixers for me. And then unfortunately, their motivation is always so sketchy. They don't always play the best defense. I lean Philly, but I may not get there. Doesn't mean it's not going to cash though. Let's go to the streets of Minnesota here, man. Switch the hats for me, please, my guys. Switch the hats. We liking the Knicks, man. The Bockers. I had the buy socks are on. You see what I'm saying? The best play of the day. I'm like, all right, what y'all like tomorrow? I got to put the socks on. I get out the shower at night for it. The Knicks socks are on. It's simply put. There was some conflicting info here, some injury report manipulation. I told my guy Friday, I said, regardless, I like the Knicks here. That's the type of shit we got to be on. It's a spot for the Knicks. And another thing I'm thinking about, Tibbs going back to Minnesota. I know it's been a few years now, but all these things always hold meaning. did lose the last few games in Minnesota as well. So they want this one. They had a much better roster right now. The Timberwolves still don't have their big three. All their players still out. Shh, don't tell anyone. But Knicks smack City by double digits. It's not going to be easy, but I think we cash this one. It's simple. I think we cash.
Yeah, there's a lot of angles to look at here. You said it. Minnesota is very injured, and Minnesota did win last night against the Celtics in a pretty gross backdoor. Of course, that's what the Celtics do. They don't play 48. They give it away. It happened. So you get the back-to-back environment of Minnesota, which they have not functioned particularly well on this year. But you also really have to go through the matchups this year for the Knicks on the road against similar opponent types. I give you 3 games, 123, 117 at the Pelicans. That was a non-cover, but again, on a 5.5, that would have been a cover. And then a couple specialty games that we gave you guys on this channel, 121, 109 at the Spurs and 116, 103 at Houston. Definitely corollary spots versus a lower level Minnesota roster here tonight. And you go last year, and it's very important. Last year, the Knicks were 1-1 ATS and 1-1 straight up against Minnesota. 103-99 at home on a -3. They covered by 1 point. And then in Minnesota, 103-102 loss. They did not cover on a 3, but the line comes up to 5 now. So extreme line functionality. You lose in the same position last year, and they bump it up 2 in your average. It's at 4.5 now for me currently. And also the final point here, which is very important. Both of those games last year came down to the wire, but the Knicks had significant leads in both of those games. 15-plus point leads in both of those games, and blew both of them, which was symptomatic of Knicks basketball last year. They were super hot in the first half in all formats, and they would give it away late. They held on once. They completely gave it back in Minnesota, 32-20 fourth quarter. Anthony Edwards really showed up there. But this is a different roster. As much as Kemba Walker's been in and out of the lineup and slightly controversial, not in a bad way, but just all over the place, this is a more professional unit. It's an older unit. They will function better down the stretch here tonight against, again, a team that really backdoored the Celtics last night with a very, very young roster. Knicks revenge game, line number, situational dynamics, -4.5 official play.
Yeah, we catch them on the rest advantage here. Like I say, this line was dipping down. There's guys that got Knicks -3.5 and -2.5. It dipped down with the news that these guys are really, I mean, it's so crazy. That's why I'm not even paying attention to social media right now. But they literally put out some info that all of the guys are going to come back. Vanderbilt, Russell, Cat, and Edwards, literally from the main beat writer. Those guys are out of protocols. Then an hour later, they go and say that that it's likely that none of those play. So, and be honest with you, none of us know what's going to happen this early in the day. But regardless, spot play for the Knicks. Tips coming back to Minnesota, revenge spot, all this. These guys needing to get on the heater, stack up wins. You look at their next 3 games versus the Timberwolves, the Pistons, the Thunder, the Raptors. They got to get on the streak if you're trying to make the playoffs. It's that simple, guys. So I like them here to keep it going. That Christmas Day game gave them some confidence. I think they keep it going. Obviously, Kemba Walker is coming out the woodworks, balling out of control, man. Triple doubles. If he's not going over 20, 25 points, he's getting a triple double. So like the Knicks here to clean up this decimated roster. Like the Knicks here, my guys, regardless, even if they play, this is the spot, and they could possibly be unconditioned if they come back. Let's go to the streets of New Orleans here, guys. Mob shit going on, man, my guys. But the Cavs, everyone's on the Cavs today, right? And then Garland's out. They still without Mobley, Mobley could possibly come back today, right? But Allen is still out. Just a ton of guys. Still got Windler out, Stevens, Shetty Osman. It's going to be tough. Now, for the Pelicans, Ingram will likely not play. Achilles injury, they'll likely take their time with that. Obviously, they don't want him to have any long-term injury. Valanciunas coming back tonight, Shark. I think he goes bunkers. I have a lean to the Pelicans. May not bet it. Obviously, it's tough to go against the Cavs, but they're not going to cover every single game, right, Shark? We know the Pelicans turn up at the house.
Yeah, no, I mean, you want to fade Cleveland just based on math and statistical frequency. Like, it's not even about the game of basketball. They're just on such a clustered heater. And we said it's kind of like the Jazz last year and the Knicks last year, ironically. But they do come in here on a pretty strong figure. They were underdogs twice, New Orleans last year. They did lose both. So the number is on Cleveland, but the number is starting to be on Cleveland. And we talked about this last year when the books started to adjust the Knicks about game 40 plus last year. The Knicks stopped covering games when they became a favorite. And Cleveland has been really cleaning up on unadjusted lines. I think it's going to catch up to them at some point. And why wouldn't it come in an out-of-conference game against really what's a particularly uninspiring opponent here at 12-22 on the campaign. Obviously, massively injured New Orleans Pelicans. But we've been talking about this now going back 2-3 weeks. They have caught some wind at home. The Pelicans have a handful of very impressive outright victories, mostly in conference. I believe 1 or 2 out of conference as well. But it's just a tough travel spot for Cleveland. Obviously, said the roster has been all over the grid. Guys are in and out. Evan Mobley, I believe, did just clear protocols. I don't know if he's playing or not, but it's just a tough spot. Pelicans are scrappy at home. It's an adjusted average. And we always talk about this. Strength is one thing, but when they reset the market, you have to throw out the previous 30 games. And now they become a totally different ATS environment to cap. And I think we're actually more so learning right now to see how they react to these lines. And in a week or two, we'll know, okay, are they just going to start blowing everybody out by 12 again on -6s? And they're just that good. But right now, I think we're readjusting, we're relearning who the Caps will be, particularly without their players here tonight. It's a tough spot.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. That's a damn good point about the lines. They're not always just like graded to the average. Sometimes they're literally giving them a little bit too much respect. Now, sometimes the teams can still cover, like you say, they can just be that good. But sometimes you find the sports books, you find teams getting on the heater and they have to push the line up just because they've been covering so well. It's not even necessarily that they're that much better than the other team. So may not necessarily in this instance. We're just talking about as general as a whole. Really, in any sport, right? A team gets hot, you'll see that line start. You like, hold on, these motherfuckers, we're starting to have to pay a premium with them now, and that's when you start to get some value on the other side. Doesn't always cash, but it's tough. But yeah, it's Pelicans or nothing for me here. I heavy lean to the under, especially with Darius Garland out. You have to look towards the under in this game. Cavs will always play really good defense. If the Pelicans want to stay in this game, they'll have to lock up, simply put. So I do like the under in this game. Heavy lean to the Pelicans. That was even before Garland was out, guys, to be honest with you. And I think maybe had to do a little bit more research. If Mobley was one of those guys to actually have COVID, if he does come back tonight, the conditioning won't be in tip-top shape, my guys. I think the Pelicans it's a tough game. I don't want to talk about how they play, but I think the Pelicans come out here with a representative effort, my guys. That's where they would do it at the house. If it was on the road, Cavs could still probably smack them up with this same squad. But at the house, the Pelicans, I don't know what they're eating over there. If it's the other teams going to New Orleans, getting some Zion buffet. All right, let's go to the streets of let's go to the golden streets of San Francisco here, guys. Shark. We got the Warriors here laying 7.5, guys. Now, I hadn't bet this game yet, but this is kind of like the Brunson early in the year. We have a player that's not that he means so much to his team. It's not necessarily in the spread. Like they'll put it in the spread, but half point, 1 point maybe. It's like a Jalen Brunson. He'll be out, but he's worth so much more than at 1 point. And I said this because I said the first game that Draymond Green misses for the Warriors, we have to faith him some type of way. He just means so much for the team as far as passing, screens, defense. He's the best defender on the team by a mile. It could show here. They're still without Poole. What I'm saying is I'm not laying 7.5 with the Warriors tonight. I think there's value on the other side. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the Nuggets win this game. This is a step-up spot for him. Jokic, no Christmas Day game. Possibly let down from the Warriors as well. It's Nuggets plus the 7.5 for me. It's the only way I'd look in this one, Shark.
Yeah, and I think this continues the story. What we're telling here is there's market adjustments. And, I don't want to misadvise people because it might sound counterintuitive and contrary to what I've said for, 2 months and obviously last year and prior on my channel on Twitter. But you have to understand when they reset the market, there's oftentimes 2 or 3 market resets over the course of a season. It's usually after game 30, and then it's again after game 60. The last 20 games, you'll see a completely different environment. You'll see some teams laying like 16.5 and just ridiculousness. But you're seeing the first market adjustment. And I bring you back to last night, actually, for this particular game. I was talking about it on Twitter with a bunch of people. People wanted to say Phoenix last night -8.5 because there was a big line jump from -2 to -8.5. They were saying, Shark, that's the line average and we want the strength. And I said, hold on a second. This is just the readjustment. And now there's going to be a buyback on the other side. And it's exactly what we're just saying about Cleveland. When Cleveland starts to get these bloated numbers, there's going to be a buyback on the other side. And I think you could see this here tonight. This is a strong number for Golden State. Golden State did beat them down the last 2 matchups of last year, both on far shorter figures. I believe they might have been underdogs in both of those games. So now you see a huge line gap from at least around a pick to 1. So this is at least 6-7 points in that direction, which is super strong. But again, you get a double revenge game here for the Nuggets, very similar to what Memphis was dealing with last night at Phoenix, coming off of just blowouts prior. And as Jay said, very, very important point here. Draymond Green is pretty much the core of the soup there. And this guy, not only even what he does on court in so many different ways, he's their emotional guy in the locker room too. He's basically a player coach in terms of the energy jolt factor. It's going to be tough for them to adjust to this in a small window. And again, I do think you might have an over-adjusted line where Denver comes in here off, a melt in Crypto.com center against the Clippers. So they are off a non-cover. Dubs come in here off a high. It's definitely a tough spot to take the Dubs here tonight.
Yeah, and the only thing I'm saying is like I don't necessarily think that they should be laying 7.5 at this point. Like, I mean, the Nuggets aren't a terrible team. Obviously, they've been lackluster. They're up and down motivationally wise, but they'll come to play one of their best games today. I think you'll get a solid effort from them. They won't always translate to a cover. Like the Warriors, they have balls over there. They can lock down defensively. I think they got Wiggins back. So Poole is still out. Draymond Green is out. But if I'm not mistaken, they got Wiggins back out of protocols. We don't know how he'll look as far as shape, or if he had COVID. Just because you went in protocols don't mean you had COVID. But late night game, NBA TV. It's gonna be a tough one, man. So, like I always say, I don't want to talk anyone out of play. Bet what you feel strongly on, guys. But for me, the Nuggets, the only way I'm looking at in this one, I do think you're paying the premium with the Warriors. They could always cover, but Nuggets are nothing for me in this one. Last game up, man. We're going to the streets of Sacramento. Everybody in the chat loves the Warriors, man. I hope you cash. Going to streets of Sacramento, line open up at 5.5. It's down to 5 now, Shark. I must say, right? What are we doing here, Shark? The Thunder have covered. I'm surprised you're not on this, to be honest with you. Thunder have covered 6 straight games, right? They've been absolutely balling. Won 4 out of the last 5. You got some balls over there. I'll be honest. I've been watching this Thunder team closely. Another injury that may not seem huge. Josh Giddey out for the Thunder. My guy can go out for a triple-double any night. If you're watching Giddey, the passing is absolutely phenomenal. He can score. He can rebound. He's going to be he's a rookie. The Kings, last time in OKC, they laid 5. So the number is not necessarily good for the Kings, but they were up 17 in that game. They pissed it away in the second half. They were up 11 in the fourth quarter. Pissed it away, right? Now the Thunder head out on the road, cover 6 straight while they're 5.5, 5-point dog. Their coach is out and help the safety protocols as well. You see last night the Suns lose without Monty Williams. He's a damn good coach. You're going to miss him. The Kings as well, just their Gentry. He's a lame duck, but he just called out his team saying some of the worst basketball he's seen in the last 30 years. Doesn't mean it'll translate to a win, but the Kings, the only way I could look in this one, Shark.
Yeah, I mean, you laid the table. All the points are great except for the line. The line is short. It should have jumped up to 7.5, 8. And, I look at last night, a good example of this, the Utah game where they did melt down the stretch. I always say you can't complain about the melt. It's just how the average gets to the final point. And these lines, when they're just short enough, Utah was 11.5 at home. It came down to 7. So it was exactly on that short average by 1.5 points, and it's exactly where it landed. Even the Charlotte game was short. Charlotte did cover it, but Charlotte absolutely outliered the shit out of the 3-point competition against Houston last night. That game was not as wide of a gap as the final score suggested. I just can't involve myself with these short lines. It tells us a tight enough story. And you could see exactly what happened to Utah last night. Sacramento did it once. They did it on the road. We had that correctly that day. We had Sacramento in the first quarter, first half, and they melted it. And they could do this again tonight. They're a great first quarter team at home. If I was going to advise in this game, I would look at the first half specifically. But I do think there's just this element, particularly on what is just fundamentally the incorrect line, for the back door to be wide open. And this could just get right around it. 6, 3, 4, 5, right around that number. As you said, the coaching is definitely a problem. These coaches being out. We talk about COVID protocols for players, but you look at what Portland did last night without Chauncey Billups. Horrendous play. Look at what the Lakers have done without Frank Vogel, L5. These teams without their coaches have not functioned very well, which is an interesting snapshot to teams where we said prior they might not have been meshing well with Vogel or Billups and these guys. Maybe they are. Maybe, because they can't play without them. So what are we looking at here? And you look at, obviously, Alvin Gentry in there now, called him out. He said it was the worst moment in 34 years as an NBA guy. That is a big call. So you're gonna get an energy point here. I do think it would come in the first half. And again, it's just the line. I'm not trying to be results oriented. It could win. That doesn't mean it's the right cap. If I involve myself on these lines long term, I will not show profit. So it's just a long thing.
But Shark, the line isn't on them, but it's still coming up. So I mean, it's still, and I'd have to look at what that game opened at as well. The Kings, this is the only thing about the line. We just talked about it. The Thunder have covered 6 straight games, and the Kings have lost 3 straight and only covered 3 of the past 10. They can't make the Kings -7.5 here, right? They're trying to make the line at some point. The odds makers, their algorithms, they're trying to do lines where they're going to get money on both sides, and they got money coming in on the Thunder. Everyone's going to take the Thunder here, and it's still holding it 5. So I understand what you're saying. The line is short, open up at 5.5. They won't have it. I understand that in theory they'll have it strong, but they're not going to have the Kings favored by 7.5. I think it's strong, even them having it at -5. I have to go back and look at it. I'm pretty sure the Thunder didn't have a full squad then. So if you look at the lines as far as the players that were out and then back in, you could say that it's strength, right? So say if the Thunder had some big players out, that's the reason why the line was higher for the Thunder on the road. Then they come back here on Sacramento at home, but the Thunder have their players back, but it's still, you know what I'm saying? So there's still strength for the Thunder, for the Kings here, if you ask me, my guys. So nothing official, but I do like it's a late night game. I have a lot of time to bet it, but I like the Kings in this game. I think they win by double digits, and I don't think they'll piss it away for the same how they lost the last game in OKC, my guys. So I'm pretty bullish on the Kings today, but I mean, all 5 of my leans I think are very strong looks, if you ask me. I think they go 5-0, my guys. Knicks, Sixers, Nuggets, Kings, Pelicans. I think they go 5-0, and I like them in that order as well, to be honest with you. I don't know. The Kings up there. But Knicks definitely top spot today. Hadn't bet a single one. I wait to the right before. Anything can happen, guys. Anything can happen, but this is a strong type of day. Like, I'm serious. I feel strongly about this shit. I looked at them deeply last night, and everything's connecting with this. Was even before the lines came out, Sharp. But break them off with your officials before we get out of here, my guy.
Yeah, 2 officials, December 28th, 2021. The buy hat is engaged. Knicks -4.5, discussed in detail prior, and Miami -6.5. Revenge game in the division, great line number there. And Jay, you make great comments about the Kings. I'm going to look at that a little bit deeper. I think the first quarter, first half specifically, could be just a blowout spot. And as you said, you're not wrong. You know, sometimes they're not gonna make the line like 9.5, 10. I'm just really zooming far out, just because I do this, year after year after year. Those short little, like, even half-point gaps do make a difference. And it just worried me. So that was all it was. But you're not wrong on any of those points at all. So top 2 plays and 9 words of lifestyle. Ride the wave or get out of the water. Jay Money, close them out.
Let's get some cash, my guys. Let's get some cash. You know, I love the Knicks today, man. If I had one top play for me today, Knicks for sure, my guys. -4.5. I like it. I think it's going to be a double-digit win by the Knicks today. It doesn't even matter what's going on the other side. This is specifically home on the Knicks. They have the rest advantage here. They have to streak. Got a string of bad opponents. They got to go on a little win streak here. Simple. They got to get back to their average after losing so many games in a row. So Knicks -4.5 top play. Heavy leans to Sixers, Nuggets, Kings, and Pelicans. I think they go 5-0. Also lean that Pelicans and Cavs game under as well. Do see a defensive type of game, my guys. That's the show today. We appreciate everybody for tuning in, man. We're just trying to get some cash. Live again at 6 o'clock Eastern, my guys. That's my guy. Go and follow him on Twitter at Sharks in Sports. You go and follow me as well at J Money is Money. We out, my guys. It's cash. Knicks, Knickerbockers, pull those pants up slightly.